YouTube, what's going on, man? It's Father Dark, and we're here with a little bit of an update today on regards to what could potentially be coming in Season 2. But before I get into this video, I just want to say I've been noticing kind of a trend lately in the comments when I do videos like this. Now, I've made this preface before with videos where I've said that, everything that we're talking about is simply speculation. When it's no longer speculation, you will know because I will be talking about information that has been released directly from the developers. But, we live in a day and age where, unfortunately, a lot of other creators, they will sit back and they will say, hey, this is what's happening. I heard it from a leaker. This leaker was right in the past. It's been confirmed. Or there's a t-shirt at Hot Topic and, et cetera, et cetera. And people, they don't really know. Not everyone has the time to, regularly check in with the Marvel Rivals dev page on Twitter or, anywhere else that they primarily upload any of the updates and factual information they have, but like I said, a lot of people for clicks and views, they will sit back and they'll tell you, hey, this is what's happening, blah, blah, blah. These are the characters that are releasing. And, a lot of people get it in their heads that that's what's actually happening. And then they get very upset or disappointed when it doesn't happen. And a lot of times the only person they have to blame is the person that came from. And I've been noticing an influx of people in the comment section who will swear and bet their lives on it. And that's quoted from them that, these particular things are happening, and the example is with the last video that I released talking about Ultron and Blade maybe being the characters that would get released and why I thought they would. Actually, I said I didn't think that they were, but I said that they could potentially be released. A lot of people rushed in. I must have had 100 comments of people that were just trying to tell me, no, it's been confirmed. And I'm like, well, where did it get confirmed from? Did you hear that from the devs? Did you see that on their page? Well, no, I saw this other guy made a video on it. Okay, this other guy doesn't work for Marvel Rivals. He doesn't he doesn't know anything except what people are telling him on Twitter and stuff like that, which is where a lot of people get their information from and stuff. It's kind of what it's for, reporting news and short, pieces of information like that, right? So, but like I said, I just want to let people know that anything that we're talking about is speculation until I say that it's not speculation. And we don't know. The devs said a while back when there was probably like 12 or 14 characters that had been leaked in the files. And we've had numerous different models, character abilities, just different things and then some of the people they're not, voice lines as well, but some of the people, they weren't actually like fully leaked or anything. We just saw their names in the game files and stuff. Excuse me. And I've been covering, leaks for a very long time, not just with this game, but with Call of Duty as well. And there's times where developers put things in the game and then they end up changing their mind down the road. It's just like with Ultron. Ultron was leaked all the way back in December, but we haven't seen him yet. Most people thought that he was coming with Season 1. And then when Season 1 came and people had said, well, his whole kit was leaked, everything was leaked for him. Why is he not in the game? That's because that's fully up to the devs to decide. They already said numerous times that they have probably maybe like 8 or 9 characters, maybe even more, ready to go to pull the trigger on. But they're waiting simply because they don't know until kind of the last minute or so what characters they're going to choose. And then sometimes they may put characters files, names and stuff like that in the files. And, they decide further down the road that, hey, maybe these characters would be a better fit, or maybe it's a corporate decision. We don't really know, but that's what they have said themselves. So just because we see something in the game does not mean that it's coming right away. And when I say in the game, I just mean, data miners and stuff who go through the files and find stuff that we're not necessarily supposed to see, just through regular gameplay and stuff like that. So like I said, you will know when there's official, confirmation of what's happening, because trust me, they're going to tell you, they're going to market it. Like I said, if you're curious and you want to know for yourself, the official information, they post regularly on Twitter. Anytime that there's anything official that's happening, that's the first place to go. And, like I said, anyone else that's getting their information, myself included, that's where we're getting it from. Now, getting into this video with, different leaks and stuff that we've had, a couple of different leakers that once again have been reliable in the past, does not mean that it's a guaranteed thing, have said that Krakoa is going to be the next map. Now, I'm going to be releasing a short like I usually do with characters and maps and stuff like that, where I go, into detail and explain the lore and, the history behind it and stuff like that, but just kind of a brief summarization for the people that aren't familiar with Krakoa. It's actually a living island that first appeared in Krakoa first appeared all the way back in Giant Size X-Men issue #1 in 1975, And the island is actually a living island. Now they believe it has transmutations that came from some type of like nuclear testing that happened kind of near, kind of like a Godzilla type of thing. But it's actually an island that originally was kind of like, it had trapped a few of the X-Men, and Professor X had to send a new team of X-Men in to save those X-Men. But when you fast forward to modern day, Krakoa is actually the place where the Hellfire Gala events, which I'll get into that in a moment, have taken place, and it's actually the home for all of the X-Men. They kind of like wanted to separate from the rest of the world because people kept trying to like eliminate them and stuff like that. So they said, hey, you know what, let's go get our own little place and we'll have it, and so yeah. But that's where they currently live. Now I don't know if something's happened. I haven't kept up with X-Men in the last couple of years, but from the last that I had been reading, they that's where they lived at, and that's where the Hellfire Galas and stuff like that were hosted. Now the reason why this makes sense and it's a big deal is because the Hellfire Gala has been being hinted toward for a while now. So it's not like it's some crazy far-fetched thing that would be the next map that we're getting. And that was going to lead me into the next thing that I was going to talk about in regards to why I feel like we're not going to be getting Blade and Ultron as characters in the upcoming season. And once again, I know a lot of people, they're going to say, oh well, Ultron's kit has been leaked, we just save Blade, and it's like, I fully understand that, but to me personally, it just doesn't make sense. Like, for one, there's no build up to Ultron. It's just to just release him just kind of seems very random. And there's some other people that made good points. They said, well, the Fantastic Four, they were just kind of released, and what do they have to do with Dracula? Well, the story kind of revolved around them doing whatever it was they were doing with Dracula, and like they had a whole thing for that and stuff. That was what the whole theme of this season was. So that kind of made a little bit more sense. It was random, but we're dealing with multiverse type stuff with this game. The lore for this game is actually kind of crazy. I tried to watch a whole video on it the other day, and it was like a 4-hour long video. So they've actually done a great job, like with lore and building all that stuff up. Just like I said though, personally, if you're having the Hellfire Gala and you're also going to be introducing Krakoa as a map, and all of this is X-Men theme, it would just make sense to me to introduce the new characters that you have that are X-Men characters. And the only leaks that we've had that have been substantial to me have been Jean Grey and Emma Frost. Like I said, them having a bunch of different characters and stuff ready to go, it makes sense because that's kind of how like game development works for big games like this. With indie games, I guess it could be however, but with AAA games, big studios, they tend to have numerous different seasons and stuff ready to go. Now, what order they choose to put that in or whatever the case is, that's up to them. But it's not like they're waiting until 3 weeks before they come out with a new season and going, all right, I guess we should just start trying to figure this out. No, that's how corporations work. They have stuff ready to go way before it even gets to that point, and that's just how that works. So. But like I said, though, it also doesn't mean that they necessarily are releasing either. It's just like I said, I just feel like from a business standpoint, it would just kind of make more sense to release the characters that are actually in line with the theme that you're going to be having, which is a mutant theme, even though we already have mutant characters. And even like with the Hellfire Gala, you technically don't have to only do like for example, a lot of people are excited for costumes and stuff. You wouldn't have to just only do mutant costumes. There wasn't only mutants that would attend the Hellfire Gala. Like a lot of the characters that we already have in the game, just examples, Iron Man, Captain America, etc., they attended the Hellfire Gala and also had costumes that were exclusive to them, except for Tony Stark. He just kind of showed up in like his actual Iron Man armor and then like took his helmet off and just had like shades on or something. To my knowledge, I don't think he wore anything else besides that. I just remember that's how he showed up. It's been a while since I've read up on those. Nonetheless, the point that I'm making is that it could really go either way because like a lot of people said technically the Fantastic Four didn't have some like it wasn't like we saved them or there was something that led up to them. They just kind of released and then the season was about them. But at the same time, though, like I said, this is going to be the first time where like, there's actually something that makes sense to have the X-Men. But at the same time, it could go either way because technically Dracula, Blade, it would have made a lot of sense to have Blade as a character while, the whole Dracula storyline was going on. That would have made a lot of sense. And they didn't do that. It was actually a situation where we saved Blade while the whole Dracula situation was going on. And the whole Fantastic Four was introduced. And the other thing that I want to add in too that I see a lot of people have a big misconception about is the way that the characters are being released. Now, this season, we got 2 characters for each half of a season. So that meant that we got 4 characters all together. Now, that was an exception. I don't know exactly why they did that and they're not doing that in the future. Maybe it was because it was the Fantastic Four and they just felt like they should all be being released, within the same season. But they've already said themselves, it has come of, specifically from the devs, they said that they're only going to be releasing 1 character per half of season going forward. which to me makes sense because we already have 37 characters in the game. So if you keep releasing 4 characters per season, that's going to get kind of out of hand really quickly. As much fun as that sounds, it's not really going to make sense in the long run. So that's what they've already said. So like I said, we're only going to be getting 2 characters, and some people have said, well, maybe they'll give us Ultron, and then they'll give us Jean Grey or Emma Frost, and then next season they'll give us Blade and Jean Grey, whatever, however you want to mix it up. But I don't see that. I see them doing kind of like themes of stuff, with that, there being exceptions sometimes because it's kind of like hard to like also put Blade with someone else like that's themed up with him. He's kind of a solo character. And the thing is like, we don't know. It may not be any of these characters. There's also been voice lines in the game for, what was it? Captain Marvel, Deadpool, a couple other people. There's been so many I've forgotten at this point, but like I said, don't get your heart set on anything and then be disappointed. Like I said, we do these videos as creators and stuff like that because they're fun. It's fun to speculate what's going to be coming out, and that doesn't matter what any game that you play where there's a live service game, where meaning like there's updates regularly, and they have battle passes and new maps coming out, new characters. With Call of Duty, it used to be like the loadouts and stuff like that. People tend to, in the meantime, while we're waiting for it, want to speculate as to what's going to happen. But that does not mean when you see a thumbnail or you hear 5 minutes of a video where someone's talking about a character and what was leaked for the character, that's what you're going to be getting specifically. This has happened numerous times. I remember there was a bunch of people that got really excited because we thought there was going to be a Deadpool skin coming to Call of Duty years ago. And, we had saw the finishing move that looked exactly like something that Deadpool would do. People were doing like fake renders and stuff of what the skin would look like, ultimately for us not to end up getting that. And that finishing move ended up being for something completely different. That was just a silly skin that had a silly finishing move, right? So, I've learned my lesson on, not putting out misinformation. I would prefer when people come to my platform to understand that, there's a big difference between if we're speculating about something versus if official information has been leaked on something. So, and the other thing that I want to add too before we end the video is that by Friday, it's Wednesday now, by Friday we should know something because one will be a week away from the new update. So they're going to start doing their marketing and stuff like that. But I know for a fact that Tim the Tap Man said that he had like some type of announcement to make in regards to Marvel Rivals and stuff like that, or that he was going to be doing a specific stream for Marvel Rivals. And that makes sense because they have been using Tim the Tap Man along with a couple of other prominent streamers and content creators in the community of Marvel Rivals to kind of like do their rollouts and stuff for characters. So I definitely will be looking out for that, and we'll more than likely start getting some kind of information. I don't know if it'll necessarily be gameplay with the characters, kind of like how they did before, or if they're just going to show a trailer, or maybe they'll be able to talk about their abilities and how they played, or if they're just going to be releasing the names of the characters, whatever, right? But nonetheless, though, we will start getting some type of information more than likely by Friday. And if it's not necessarily Friday, it'll definitely be starting next week, because that will be when the update will be coming, is that week. So, but yeah, that's really all I have to add for it. If you guys have any other questions or anything like that, put them in the comments. If you have any ideas, if there's anything that you guys have seen that you thought maybe happening in the new season, whatever the case may be, but just make sure you don't go in the comment section spreading misinformation and saying that anything has been confirmed, because I would just want to reiterate again, nothing has been confirmed. There's not a single thing in regards to season 2 from the actual devs on their page. So at this point, they could literally do whatever they want to. It's their game. They don't have to sit here and go, oh, well, little Timmy wants Jean Grey, or little Becky wants Sue Storm, or I'm sorry, we already have Sue Storm, but you know what I mean, Blade, or whatever the case is. So, it's completely up to them. Don't get your hopes up and your expectations, just so that they can be, just treated as what it is, speculation and fun, because, that's to me, that's one of the most fun things about this game, is speculating about what's going to happen, who they're going to bring in, what's going to happen with the story, different, skins that they could release that are from the comic books or whatever, right? So, but yeah, like I said, if you have any comments, concerns, questions, or anything like that, put them in the comments. Also, if you just want to speculate even further, put them in the comments. I appreciate you guys for watching, but this is Dark. I'm out, and I'll catch you in the next one.